Hey, it's Adrian from Contact Mapping here with Greg from 1BC, and what we're going to talk to you today is 5 ways that you can really level up the way that you develop relationships and referrals within a networking community in a way that's going to be transformative for you. So we're going to run through 5 great tips. They're going to really help you, and so let's get after it. Greg,
Cool.
What's number 1?
Number 1, in my opinion, is to always believe that you are going to get results through your referrals and your networking, because you got to believe it in your heart first. And then after you do that, you set a goal, and your goal should be how many new contacts do I want to make on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis. Because when you have a goal, you can hit those goals. And then what you do by hitting those numbers, you start tracking and measuring. And tracking and measuring and setting goals in your networking and how to work by referral will get you light years ahead of everybody else. It just really will.
That's awesome. Yeah, exactly. What gets measured gets done, and so having those goals, tracking and measuring is a huge deal. So the second one is for you to start learning the practice of how you learn other people's stories inside of these groups and inside of these conversations that you're beginning to have. So people are inevitably going to share not only a little bit about their business, but probably a little bit about their personal life, their family, whatever it is. And it's easy to think you're going to remember those things. But the reality is that if you're networking on purpose, if you're networking with intention, you're going to be meeting too many people to keep all those stories straight. So learn people's stories and use the contact mapping app to remember those stories and to capture them in your notes, because those are going to become a gold mine for you to be able to contribute to the other person and to develop a relationship that is a two-way street. So learn those stories and then document, because that's really where the rubber meets the road in terms of being able to reference back and bring your network to life.
Right. And what contact mapping can do is help you record those stories right on your cell phone very easily. You don't do any typing, it's all audio. So that's really vital, because you're not doing business with a mortgage professional. You're not doing business with a real estate agent. You're doing business with a real person. We have a new real estate agent just joined. He's climbed 100 high peaks in Colorado, right? And he is, he loves mountain biking or whatever. When you start knowing who people really are, you're creating a relationship that makes sense and that works. So learning their stories, understanding who people are, rather than just pigeonholing them in a certain category, it's a huge difference.
Absolutely right. And so talk about number 3 and why it's so important to learn these stories and to develop your database of contacts, Greg.
Okay, so I would ask you a question. Why should you want to network? Okay, and people go, oh, I got a lot of contacts. You should network for many reasons. High-level executives spend 54% of their time networking. So it's not just you, it's a lot of different kinds of people. The one reason you want to network is to meet more people, to have more contacts that are more valuable to your clients. Your client says, hey, I need a web developer that only works in WordPress or whatever. You have that connection. You have somebody that can do sprinkler systems for their yard. The more you're connected, the more connections you have, you become the go-to person, you become more valuable, and you become really an asset to your clients when they don't need more of what you've got, if you understand what I mean.
That's so true. And for almost any profession, the number of choices that any potential client would have to purchase essentially that same or good or service are through the roof. And so they have to have a reason why they're going to choose you. And one of the reasons that costs very little money and adds extreme amounts of value is to become that go-to person like Greg is talking about, that people know that you have their best interest in mind and that you are hugely connected inside of whatever community that you're a part of. That is a huge value add that you can offer to any client or potential client. So networking gives you that advantage, and it's a big, big deal. And so how do you think about you're meeting these new people, you are developing relationships. How do you actually turn that into something where that person is going to want to give you a referral? Well, here's what I think is the most important thing. You have got to learn how to add value and to have this mentality of giving first inside of relationships. And giving first doesn't have to be in a monetary sense. It doesn't necessarily even have to be in a referral sense, although that's a great way to give first. But what it really comes down to is it goes back to that story that we talked about, right? If I have learned your story, and the realtor who Greg was talking about who loves to climb these 14,000 foot peaks, and there's some crazy new hiking shoe that just hit the market, and I see something about that, and I go, I was talking to somebody the other day that loves climbing 14ers, and I punch that into my app, and there up pops his name, sending that link to, hey, you should check out these shoes. It looks like they're really cool. People are going crazy for them. Whatever it is, that is the kind of thing that you can do, where if you just have that mentality of finding a creative way to add value to them based on the fact that you learned their story and cared enough to remember it, people go crazy because they're just not used to being cared for in that kind of way.
Right, and another idea is you can create a relationship with people on the phone, by email, by virtual meetings, before you ever meet them live. And a lot of times what I do is when I email a person, or I leave them a voicemail, or I send them a text, I always add something of a value right there. Like, I really want you to meet this estate planning attorney, or whatever it might be. Just add a little bit of value, because you can always think of something creatively to add value to when you first contact people, or as you continually to generate and create a virtual relationship until you guys actually really get a chance to meet live.
Exactly. It's all about thinking about what's in it for the other person, right? We all inherently, we're always thinking about what's in it for me. And so if you know that whoever you're talking to, however virtuous they are, at the end of the day, they want to know what's in it for them. If you can always think about what's going to be in it for them, and you're adding value in every touch point and every interaction that you have, things shift in a dramatic way.
Right. And again, you've heard it many times, always think in terms of giving value and adding value without expecting anything at all in return. And, it's a good idea. It's not easy to do.
No.
But really, really go from there, and guess what? Things will start happening back in your world that you don't even understand how, because you're hitting that right energy. The law of frequency, or the law of attraction, and all those sort of things start coming into play.
That's absolutely right. And so as you begin doing this, what's going to happen? You're going to end up starting to connect people together and start leveraging that network to put people that need to meet each other together. So what's the right way to go about doing that?
Well, a lot of people will say that, hey, I met somebody, they're really interested in what you do, I gave them your business card, and they're going to call you. Now, that really doesn't work, maybe 2% of the time. Always give each other contact information. In our organization, we just contact people and connect people automatically because they're part of the same organization. They want to meet each other. This person that does roofing over here can meet with this person that does gifting. That will be a really nice gift for their person when they buy a $10,000 roof or whatever. But always give each other the contact information of each other so they can contact. You can do that preferably by email. Put their both emails in there and say, you guys should really meet. It'd be a good connection. Even better right now is group text. And then when you do that, you just click on a little button. You'll see everybody's phone number. You can call them directly. But always be nice enough to give everybody the contact information, maybe a little idea on why they should connect, and then people will be able to grow their connections a lot better and faster, and they'll be more appreciative of you wanting to help them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's, when you set this up the right way and everybody's got the right contact information, everybody knows why they're talking to each other in the first place, they're happy to be talking to each other. That is a beautiful thing because everybody wins, and you win as a result of doing that because you created value for both parties involved when you make those kinds of introductions. So learning to master just those little finer points of how you introduce people well makes a big difference in the way it's received, in the value that it adds, and in people's desire to reciprocate to you over time because they see that you're modeling the kind of behavior that we're all trying to create within these communities, right?
Right. And so one thing I really think is the last little point is you're not in the networking world to create relationships. You're in the networking world to create advocates. Because if I'm an advocate of you and you're an advocate of me, we will do a lot together. And when you're an advocate, that means I know when I refer Adrian to someone, they're going to get phenomenal service and my reputation is still intact. So when you become advocates of each other and you really, really say, hey, I want to help you and I know you do good work, and you then start thinking in terms of not, I'm generating leads or I'm generating referrals. Always use these words. I think it's a really good piece. I want to give you a personal introduction. Personal introductions, it's such a better way to work in the referral world. So that's really about all I got to say.
Yeah, no, that's great. So just a quick recap. the key things for you to generate more referrals, more advocates in your world are, number one, you got to begin with the end in mind. So set goals and then track and measure those things. Number two, you got to learn people's stories and document those. Three, you want to become that go-to person. You network not just for yourself, but for your entire community, because that's how you become that person of influence. Number four, adopt that attitude of giving first, of adding value, of thinking about what's in it for them. And number five, become a master of how you connect people together the right way, because that will create huge goodwill and it will all come back around and it will benefit everybody involved. So hope you got value out of this. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
That was
you
great.
are the expert, my friend.
Well, thank you. All right, we're going to have fun.
Have a good one.
See ya.